Hello, ground passers, and welcome to another mini pod. This time, I'm not doing it alone. I am joined by Ava Wallace of the Washington Post. This episode is going to be all about the Citi Open. We are going to be catching up on Venus Williams' return to the sport. We're going to review the tournament as a whole, the importance of the tournament leading up to the US Open, and finally, there's a lot of tennis to talk about. Taylor Townsend making a run to number one now in doubles, Team ER, which can't believe how many people have not watched that show. I don't know if I'm old or what, but Team
Uh-oh.
ER we'll talk about.
What am I behind on?
We will talk about it. And Leylah Fernandez's return to form, and also Alex de Minaur, who is into the finals and finally finding some balance. So let's get right into it. Ava, you're new to the show, so could you just introduce yourself and who you are?
Yeah, my name is Ava Wallace. Thank you so much for having me. I've been covering tennis, maybe 2015 now. I started out just covering the US Open, and now I do Wimbledon and the US Open every year for the Post. And this lovely tournament, it is my hometown tournament too. Me, Haley Baptiste, and Frances Tiafoe, all on equal footing there. So I've been covering this tournament, and I've been coming to this tournament for several years, but it's been very cool to watch it grow because this was probably the best field it's ever had, hands down. And the most marquee names, I should say, didn't make it to the final, but I think we're going to see some really good tennis today.
Yeah. It's kind of funny where, the finals have been set now, and it's going to be Leylah Fernandez against Kalinskaya on the women's side. And then on the men's side, it's Alex de Minaur and Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, one of the
two buddies.
the two buddies. But, I think considering the field, that's probably not what especially the home crowd expected as finals.
No, definitely not. I mean, and it's so funny because you have someone like Frances Tiafoe. Frances Tiafoe has played this tournament 9 times. He's never even made it to a final. And I think it just really illustrates how difficult it is to play at home. I think Haley Baptiste learned that this year with a lot more eyes on her after that really excellent run in Europe she had. But no, this is a great tournament. A lot of highly ranked Americans, a lot of people kind of starting their hard court seasons. It's interesting coming out here after coming over from Wimbledon, playing in this heat and humidity, and I think it really separates out a lot of players.
Okay, so let me just ask that question real quick because
okay.
I mean, everyone was kind of like for Wimbledon. Oh, it's so hot. It's so hot. We're dying. It's so hot. What is the comparison really? Because now you've experienced both.
Yes, and I was in that Wimbledon heat wave. And okay, so that was not nothing, because the thing about Wimbledon is there, especially if you're a player, and a lot of players stay in houses. They're not in hotels like they are at other slams. They're in houses that don't have air conditioning. So it's different. It's a different kind of heat when your body temperature can't come down at night and you wake up and you're hot, you're going to bed and you're hot. You're just uncomfortable. You're not sleeping well. You're like sweaty when you get to work. You're mad. I mean, they have nicer locker rooms. I don't get to go to those locker rooms and shower before a match, but still, the difference here, it's probably as hot as it was in Wimbledon, but there is no humidity, really no humidity on tour like DC. It's absolutely hot and humid, the East Coast and in Cincinnati and US Open, but it is a special kind of hell here, if I may say it. And a lot of players, that's why they like starting their swing here. It's kind of, you can't get a better conditioning session and then playing in DC.
Yeah. And I think a lot of players talked about that. And the history of the tournament itself, when we were leading up to the tournament and we did our preview, we talked about all these players that had such great runs in DC and then went on to the US Open. And I think no more illustrated than Coco Gauff in 23, where she came into DC, won the tournament, and then went on to the US Open and won that. So it seems like it really is great conditioning and great it works very well as an entryway for players leading into the US Open.
It's a very efficient way. We were talking about this with Ben Shelton this week, where it's important to get quality match time in on court. And that's, the amount of time you spend, it doesn't really matter. But if you can spend it in that heat and humidity where you can kind of like take a fast track to getting your body used to those conditions, it's huge. He was also like spending 15 minutes at a time up to his neck in a hot tub, which I was like, oh, that sounds bad, but
Yeah.
I might actually take that over playing in these conditions. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think we just dived right into it, but I feel like we need to kind of start where everything started with the Citi Open, which is with Venus Williams. She announced her big return to the tennis tour after getting a wild card to the Citi Open, and I think that's what everyone was looking forward to. And I just wanted to get a feel, like when you first heard that she was going to be playing again and it was going to be at the Citi Open, what was your first thought? Like, did you have any expectations? What was your first thought?
My first thought was why. I, and I think that's kind of the immediate thought of tennis is not the only sport I cover, but any athlete making a late career comeback, I'm like, you have your money, you have nothing left to prove. Venus Williams is engaged. It seems like she's ready to kind of start this new chapter in life. But being around her this week really answered that why for me. I have not seen Venus looking so joyful in a really not saying she wasn't when she played the US Open a couple years ago or anything, but I'm saying when she came into news conferences and talked to us, she was giving us long answers. She was joking around, making us laugh, cracking us up. And the woman has almost 50 WTA titles. She has 7 Grand Slam titles. When she beat Peyton Stearns in the first round, I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen her smile wider. She just really seemed absolutely thrilled to be back doing what she loves. And I think it's something it must be so wonderful to get to do the thing that you are best at, that feels probably the most natural to you without all of the pressure and all of the things you have to prove and like just doing it because you love it. It must be absolutely wonderful to experience that. And that was the first time I think I've ever covered one of these kind of late career comebacks where I thought like, wow, when I'm like 80, should I still be doing journalism? But like, it don't, like, oh, sure, I'm just messing around and like, I have all the wisdom and perspective. Like, I was just like, I kind of get it. It's not that she like, you don't get the sense that it's because she can't move on. You get the sense that because she
Yeah.
loves it, she chose this.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. I think I had very similar reaction to you where I was kind of like, why are we doing this? And I think my memory went back to her last kind of return and that Wimbledon where she like tripped and fell and it was
Uh,
just like so much. And I was like, I don't know if I can go through that again. Like, yeah,
yeah.
I was just like, I don't know if I can do that. And just watching her play with so much joy. And you're right, it's almost like there's no expectation. Like she's not out here being like, I need to win the Citi Open or I need to, do any certain thing. She just likes playing tennis. She can, so she will. Like it was almost so simple.
And I loved what she said. She said she wanted to make space for playing tennis. She's not this. It feels so purposeful, and she didn't tell. Venus doesn't ever reveal all that much, but she said, "I do have a plan. I'm not going to tell you." But I liked that she has kind of thought through this, and she said, it's not that I was missing tennis per se. It's that I wanted to make space for tennis. So she's not just doing this because she's 45 and can still move better than any 45-year-old I've ever seen. It's like, it was so interesting to me how purposeful of a plan this was for her. It makes me wonder, makes me think, what's coming? What's coming down the pike?
So that was going to be my next question because, I asked her in press a little bit because there was a part of me who I knew immediately that something like this, the very first headline would be 45 years old, blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. Like it would always lead with the age. So I asked her, what is your headline? And she definitely gave a great answer, which I will leave a clip here of what she said. Hi, Venus. I think every headline is going to lead with age and, where you're at doing this. But for you, what is the headline for you? Like, what makes coming back so important and why is it important for you?
Yeah, for me, I just, constantly just praying for good health so that way I could have an opportunity to play with good health. I think a lot of this for me is being able to come back and try to play at a level to play healthy, which I didn't have the opportunity to do. So that is a headline for me.
But I also still kind of, after everything, I thought, is this sort of just a run up to a US Open wildcard, which she's already gotten? She entered into the mixed doubles
Mm-hmm.
part of it. So it kind of a foreshadowing that, yes, she will get a wild card to singles. But, and I don't know what you think, but is this sort of a journey to wrapping it up at the US Open?
I have no idea because I always kind of thought that Venus would just kind of go quietly off into the night and didn't want all the hoopla. And maybe she, if she wants hoopla, listen, we can give her hoopla. It was incredible to see the fans kind of respond to her here. And I'm sure she'd get the exact same in New York. I don't know. It did make me wonder when I don't know if you noticed, I don't know if she was doing this in all press conferences, but in her last presser, she had the wireless mic on and her crew was filming her for YouTube. So I was like, oh, we're documenting things. Like, taking all these little clues. So I don't know, but if this is her run up, I think it's fantastic how open she's being. No athlete owes us that really, but nobody has more wisdom than Venus Williams about this sport. I really think she is the closest thing women's tennis has to Billie Jean King in this generation and then probably the generation prior too. So I think it's really cool that she is sharing her thoughts with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was actually a really big part of it. I was actually just talking to a friend of mine after literally her first press conference, and I thought, there's no one on tour speaking like this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one like dropping this sort of knowledge. And I think it's really great that she is doing it, and hopefully players on tour are kind of like picking up what she's putting down a little bit. And I think it's really great to kind of see that contrast and hope it continues on. Someone picks it up. I always think of someone who speaks so well, so young, someone like Coco Gauff, where I'm just like, I did not speak that well when I was 21.
Oh my God, no. Every time she opens her mouth, I'm like, how'd you do that? Like, what? Like, what are you?
Where'd you learn that?
Right. Yeah. No. It's very impressive, and it makes me think in other sports you have so many coaches who were former players who can really speak to things of the past, and we don't really get that in tennis as much. People who are that public facing, who are Venus's age, talking about it. So it's really, really special to experience, honestly.
Yeah. So, no matter what happens, I think she had like a really great run here. She already has a wild card into Cincinnati. And maybe I should ask you this question because, obviously the big thing that also started coming up was the whole question of wild cards and who should get them and who shouldn't get them. And in my opinion, the Citi Open got everything that they needed from giving Venus a wild card. The crowds responded so well to her. The stadium was packed every time she was there. And she played and won like 2 matches. So of course she deserved a wild card. If anyone deserves a wild card, it's Venus Williams. But you still get, I think in where we are now with wild cards, I feel like if we're treating wild cards the way they are treated now, it's not a merit-based system, really.
No, these tournaments exist to make money. I mean, I understand there's this notion of deserves and everything, and I totally understand, but tournaments exist to make money. They get to afford the wild cards they want. Also, like if you're talking about promoting women's tennis, whoever comes out to see Venus Williams is going to see a lot of younger women's tennis players they might not have otherwise seen. Like I think of it from the imagining all of the other sports that I cover, like it's a money-making business. They get to do what they want, whether it's right or wrong. And I totally understand the plight. But I think it was Maria Sakkari who was after Venus on the wild card list.
Yeah.
List. She played. She was here.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't give Venus Williams a wild card.
Exactly. That kind of takes me on to the tournament itself. And, my history of the tournament, this is the 3rd time I've been there. The first time was actually on a whim, decided to drive down for the finals when Coco Gauff won. Like literally that morning, I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna drive to DC. I don't know. It was such a last minute thing. So I did that. And then last year I actually came in more earlier and I did the qualifying, weekend, that sort of thing. So it's definitely a tournament I've seen a little bit of over the years. This is the longest stretch I've had at DC. And boy, oh boy, as someone who's only just started traveling for tennis and checking out other tournaments, the crowds are so vibrant, so diverse, a lot of young people. It almost was like every other tournament should be looking at Citi Open and saying, how did they do that? And I don't know, I'll ask you this. I don't know if it's a result of the city, like where it's located, but also I feel like the Citi Open itself is doing a lot of outreach and like sort of bringing people in as well.
Yeah, that is completely baked into the history of this tournament. Like when Arthur Ashe told Donald Dell, he suggested Washington, D.C., said, but it should be in a public park. It should be in an integrated neighborhood. So there's definitely that history there. The tournament has long time benefited the WTEF, which is a local organization, a local community tennis organization. So all of that kind of is baked in, but also D.C. is a really, really excellent place for a tournament of this level. It's an extremely diverse community, also an affluent community. So like you talk about accessibility, this tournament used to be very accessible economically. It has certainly gotten less so as it's grown, as they combine and become a 500. I would say it's still a lot more accessible than anything that, you know, if you're on the East Coast going to the US or going to the US Open or anything like that. But it's also in a community that it's kind of a perfect storm of like people who can afford to keep up with the rising prices, people who are diverse and can do that. It's really, really special. It's so like a balm to the soul to see a tennis tournament that actually reflects the community it's in. I think it definitely has, you know, the problem with it is if you're talking about money in sports is we're playing in a national park, like it is on federally owned land. They can't expand right now with the current deal the way it is. This is a site that's not going to be comparable to something like the Cincinnati Open, where they can just pour money in, blow it out, update all the facilities. I think it's worth keeping a tennis tournament in a community like this for some of maybe those things. And I don't think, you know, any of the small facilities are keeping people from coming. I'm looking at people swarming around right now. It's so busy here always. But yeah, it's a really interesting, very unique stop on the tour, but it's really, players certainly appreciate it. I think people in the community appreciate it. It's a really interesting case study, honestly, for tennis tournaments.
Yeah, no, you're right about this sort of like there are some parts of it that are pretty temporary, like the market square where their food court is. It's just a big tent that's air conditioned and stuff. And sure, I'm sure they would like to put some sort of permanent structure, maybe expand a little bit more, but just it's incredible how accessible it is. The bus stop is like right there, literally right outside the grounds. And I see people biking over all the time. And, you know, there's something to that where, you know, I kind of compare it a little bit to New York in the sense that the train is right there and you can kind of accessible. But I remember I met one of our listeners who was from Philly, and she was hoping to go to the US Open, but she saw the prices and it was just kind of like, how do I even afford a ground pass to go to the US Open? Which is why I tell everyone, go to Fan Week. It's really great and it's free. But she had listened to us talk about Citi Open, so she thought, you know what? I'm in Philly. Let me just drive down to DC and check it out. And she was blown away. You are in this sort of small tournament space and area, and the players are right there. They're just like right next to you. I was talking to Taylor Fritz about this, like him moving from court to like player lounge and all that stuff. You're walking, you know, in between the fans, and it's definitely something he mentioned. I'll put the clip that he where he talked about it, where he sort of was like, if I'm running late or I'm going from one place to another, it's tough.
It's a little tough, yeah.
Yeah,
but also the fans here are knowledgeable and respectful. I think I've honestly never heard of a problem, which like it does kind of make you think like, oh, I hope we don't have a safety thing. But like I've never heard players say I was made uncomfortable or anything like that.
Yep.
We know our tennis in DC, you know, like, you gotta give the fans credit for that.
Yeah, no, I actually, that is such a great thing to point out because, again, I think I'll put photos maybe as well, but people don't understand, like, it's literally, they're in there. You're amongst the players, but everyone is so respectful.
Yeah.
No one's, like, you know, doing anything crazy, and it's
touching
fascinating.
Anybody, grabbing it. Yeah, there's none of that.
No.
Yeah, very
chill,
so weirdly.
It's a really, really, really great setup. At a tournament like this, you know, you're surrounded by fans everywhere. I've seen you run back and forth between courts. You're constantly stopped, selfies and all that. There's no underground tunnel to go through. Do you like it? Are you enjoying it?
There's two sides to it. There's times where I unfortunately run late to a lot of things. So there's times where I just really don't have time to stop, and I feel really bad saying like, sorry, I can. And sometimes I just will stop and make myself later. But yeah, there is times where I do need to get to where I'm trying to be, but you know, then there are times like now where, you know, I got nothing to do, and it's nice to be around the fans and see just the excitement running around. It makes it exciting for the fans as well, that you can just be walking around, there's players all
everywhere. Quickly, just to talk about the tennis before I let you go, because
we have to talk about the tennis.
Apparently tennis is also happening in DC. But yeah, I think we talked about the finals lineup a little bit, and everyone was kind of on sort of like, on the edge a little bit, just hoping for that rematch of the US Open 21 against Emma Raducanu and Leylah Fernandez. And we did not quite get it. Leylah made it to the finals, but Emma Raducanu did not. But either way, I feel like both players really kind of have set themselves up really well leading into the US Open this season. I think Leylah hasn't really had a great season this year. Emma has kind of been on the slow climb since the Miami Open, but it seems like they're both in a good place right now.
Leylah was in here talking to us yesterday about how after Wimbledon, she got to take a couple days off. And then when she went back to court, she had a couple old coaches come and talk to her and just really hit with her and her dad and remind her why she loves the game. She said she was just able to hit freely and play for fun. And she had lost a little bit of that, not in a way that like, oh, I'm thinking of giving up tennis or anything like that. Just, you're grinding for a long time. Sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? Haven't, won a title since, what was it, 2023 for her?
Yeah.
And she was really reminded that she just enjoys tennis. And she said that was a really big part of how well she's played here. She also gets to be on a hard court. It was, I think, a good draw for her. She had a lot of good matchups that matched up with her game well. But, man, she has been impressive in terms of her fortitude, I would say. She's played a lot of long matches at this tournament. Talk about someone who's playing well in the heat and humidity and just kind of been able to stick with it and stick to her game plan. She showed up really well. She's really impressed me this week. I'm very interested to see this final against Kalinskaya, who's also kind of having a little bit of a surge here. So I feel like Leylah should definitely be favored in that one, but I'm interested to see how she approaches the challenge.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of Kalinskaya, who's completely under the radar, like I was in DC for 6 days. I didn't watch Kalinskaya till I was back in New York.
And that was a good match for her against Emma. I mean,
yeah,
that was a really competitive, great match. She was hitting big. Emma was making me nervous with how often she was like doing the back bend and stretching her back out. I was like, no. But no, that was a really solid win for her.
Yeah. I think Leylah, what I've also seen at this tournament, like even from talking to her or even just before, I don't know, did you see her social media where she asked for a date?
She got one, she said. She said she found one. She's going on one. I need her to be vetting these people. I need her to be vetting them strictly. I'm really stressed out for Leylah. I'm happy for you, but I'm stressed out. Like, I need a follow-up to know how it went at the end.
I had to ask her about it because I was like, your DMs probably just blew up. Like, they just melted or something. But little things like this where I feel like, maybe not, obviously, they're tennis players, they're professional athletes. This is their career. It's their job. It's what they do. But I feel like the trend I'm seeing, at least a little bit, with a player like Leylah, and I'm going to pivot here to someone also in the finals, Alex de Minaur, is kind of finding that balance between, yes, I'm a tennis player and this is all the focus in the world and this is what I'm doing, but also being able to step back and have some time off, have mental breaks. Because after, I think it was Alex's second match, we talked to him in press and he was talking about how before, even during practice, he would live and die on a practice and like whether it was good or bad. And like that would, eat him up over and over again. And you're just like, wow, if you're doing that on practice, what are you doing during the match and stuff like that? I don't know what you thought of his run because you were at Wimbledon as well when he was kind of like talking about a bit of the burnout and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he had a good run at Wimbledon too. But I mean, especially someone who's always kind of been as intense as he has, I think this year has probably been tough just with the extended schedule and all the tournaments, all the big tournaments kind of becoming 2-week events. That is what I feel like when we're talking to players, what they bring up most is they're like, yes, it's really nice to have a day off and, rest or get a practice in. But mentally, when you're at a tournament, when you're not kind of living normal life, you don't have downtime to just be away from the court. Like, even if you're not playing for a day, I feel like a lot of people have said that's the most taxing part. So I can imagine that for someone like him, that's just exhausting. And it's the schedule certainly this year. And I'm not saying that, it might happen to anyone at any part of the schedule in any year. But I think it's been exacerbated for a lot of players this year. And it was kind of important for him to take those few days off, even if it is just a couple days off, because this tournament is usually like 3 weeks, I think, after Wimbledon. It's just a week this year. But I think that served a lot of people well.
Yeah. Before I jump into the American men, because I do want to touch on them just briefly, but What do you think of Corentin Moutet?
What a character. He was certainly spicy this week, that's for sure. I don't think I've ever covered a lucky loser who then also got a buy into the main draw. Like
Yeah.
my guy had a great week. He was interesting. He's very opinionated, very dramatic, I'll say, which I appreciate our
Yeah.
characters, but yeah, he's very French.
Yeah,
How about that?
he's really funny because so I was watching one of his matches on the outside courts and he was very vocal with the guys who were like sitting right on courtside. Like he was talking to them and like, just going back and forth, like full conversation during his match. And I remember asking him about it in press and I was like, Corentin, like, do you just love doing this? Like, do you just, is that part of your game plan? And he was like, no, I like to stay within
That's who I
myself. And
am.
I'm like,
That's
Corentin
what he
Moutet.
said.
Yes.
Wow, that's him staying within himself. Last night during that match against Minauer, he literally like dropped his racket and for some reason just like pantomimed a few points. He was like, oh, and then I do this and then I do that. And I was just like, what's happening? I mean, again, thoroughly entertained, but very confused also.
Yeah, I definitely think, when he's in the draw, when he's at a tournament, he's definitely a draw for crowds who just want some fun times. But it was really fascinating for him to then in press be, no, I just want to be within
What are you
myself.
talking about?
I'm like,
Just a quiet little tennis player. That's very funny. That's hilarious.
man. But so the American men, I kind of saved them for last, but I don't know what you think about it, but for me, especially with a player maybe like Ben Shelton and maybe a little bit Frances Tiafoe as well, it seems like the pressure is there. I was reading up today on it. It's been 22 years since an American man has won a Grand Slam. Poor Andy Roddick. He probably gets the question all the time at this point. And I think coming into this tournament, the way Ben Shelton was playing, he said after actually his loss yesterday, he mentioned that he was actually playing very well, like in this tournament. I feel like Ben Shelton has become the Grand Slam guy. He's almost guaranteed into the second week. And he was talking about how well he has been playing at this tournament, putting matches together outside of a Grand Slam. But he didn't quite get over the line here. Neither did Tiafoe, neither did Taylor Fritz. What do you think in general is missing a bit from the American guys? Because they're getting closer. I think they are getting closer, but it still seems so far away.
Absolutely, and that's a great question. I think Frances Tiafoe is almost a different equation here just because I think when he comes and plays this tournament, he is busy all day and all night. He loves this tournament. He's in DC. He's maximizing his time. I think it is really, really, really hard to play at home when you're as good as he is. He played a good match against Ben Shelton. Shelton was better in the big moments. I think that's one of the things Frances struggles with is kind of showing up and taking his opportunities for what they are and taking advantage of them. But Taylor Fritz and Ben Shelton were just weird matches. That was among the worst service matches I've seen from Ben Shelton. Yeah. Last night in Davidovich, he has trouble against Davidovich Fokina. He's 0-3 against him, but it's Taylor Fritz is someone who's like so consistent, has everything. It's just tough to put it all together when you're going to be in the slams, certainly going up against Sinner and Alcaraz now. That it's what it feels like. And the gap between elite and Sinner and Alcaraz seems to be like slightly worryingly wide already for me. At least I'm kind of like keeping an eye on like, oh, someone's got to keep this interesting here maybe. So I don't even necessarily think it's something that's missing. I think you have to take advantage of the opportunities when they come to you. Taylor Fritz in that match at Wimbledon had a chance to win that fourth set, push it to 5. Like you have to take those every single time. And that's really hard to do. We're kind of spoiled by former champions like Andy Roddick, like the Williams sisters, people who are just so good at snapping those up. But it is really difficult. It's just, I don't know what there's missing other than like that big game instinct, I guess.
Yeah.
If that even makes sense.
I just wanted to piggyback on, or like pick up on what you've mentioned this now a couple of times where playing at home can be really hard. We saw Haley Baptiste, like it seemed like she had a hard time with sort of the pressure of being almost a star at this tournament, playing at home. Frances Tiafoe also not getting off the line. He's played it so many times. He's not won, and he really wants to win this tournament. Is that just, I mean, I don't want to say you'll just never get over it, because it seems like it is a very hard thing to do when everyone wants you to win.
Definitely. I think it is. I think it is possible to get over, but I think you have to be in a place where you're just kind of going out there, and maybe you've done it enough times. You're like, whatever, I'm just playing here now. Or maybe it is something where you're like, I'm actually really streamlining my week this week, and I'm focused on it. So I think it is something that you play it enough times where you adjust your focus, you adjust what you do during the week, and you can get over the hump. Like Frances Tiafoe is someone who is certainly talented enough to do so. I think Haley Baptiste is too, honestly. Like, but I think it just takes practice. Like, and I think she's going to take a really big lesson. Haley in particular is going to take a really big lesson from this week, where she came out and she said, you know, one thing that she's working with Eric Hetman. One thing that Eric told me is Venus and Serena, they're always out there to beat the person across the net. And today I was not out there focused on beating the person across the net. It looked like she was really taking that to heart. And she's what? She's how old is she? 27? 20?
Early,
she's not that
yeah.
old.
No, mid-20s maybe?
I think she's old enough to digest that and really absorb that lesson with a level of maturity that I feel like will mean something to her. So I felt like I saw something happen in that moment, but it's hard, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, totally. Well, this has been a great tournament. It's been really great talking to you about it. You know, tennis never stops. So I'm talking to you now. It's Sunday. Women's finals about to start. I don't know if has play started back. I don't know.
I heard the anthem. So I think we're on our way here.
So we're
no more rain.
No more rain. But so the women's is about to start. We still have the men's final to go. But at the same time, Canada is happening today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. Crazy.
I saw the schedule and I was like, wait, Canada is happening today? I'm not even over city yet. Like, what's going on?
I keep getting PR emails being like, will you be in Montreal? And I'm like, no, I'm still here.
I'm still in DC.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ATP are in Toronto, the WTA in Montreal, and it is for the Canadian Masters 1000 level event. So that is started now, and it's going to be going on for the next 10 days leading into Cincinnati, which is guaranteed. Yes, I think it overlaps as well.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the last thing I ask you, but it's been a big talking point. And I think this is just a general thing that will go on at least for the rest of the year, and we'll see how it happens next year. But the top players are missing from the Canadian Masters. Sinner, Alcaraz, Sabalenka, Djokovic, Draper. None of them are playing. The tennis schedule seems too long.
Especially, Jessica Pegula made this point at Wimbledon, especially when it leads into a Grand Slam. Like Indian Wells, Miami, that's kind of got a good thing going where you can go and play those 2-week events, and they do seem special, and you're not at the end of it trying to win a Grand Slam. When you're doing those back-to-back 2-week events and then have to play a Grand Slam, I think is when tennis players really, really start to have to make tough decisions. So I will be interested to see if the schedule stays as is. I don't think you should try something for just 1 year ever. I think you should let it play out and see what happens, but I'll be interested to see if this is how it stays long term.
Yeah. Well, Ava, thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been really great talking to you. And guys, it's been another great episode. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, leave us 5 stars wherever you're listening on whatever podcast streamer of your choice. And we will see you again next week. Bye, guys.